let's talk about this. Your next stop, which is Ohio State and Penn State. Woo. Penn State leads the nation in time of possession. They are grinding out drives, Pate. They're just keeping the ball away, but they've done that against a much lesser level of opponent than Ohio State. Is that a path to victory for them, though? Do you think they can lean on that one stat, limit Ohio State possessions at the Horseshoe, and win this game that way?
Yeah, they can. The funny thing about stat profiles this time of year in college football is they can still be misleading. Last week, what did we see? We saw Texas A&M take the number 2 rush defense into Neyland and get over 200 hung on them.
Yep.
So like we could have baked all of that into our prediction and then been wrong had we just leaned on that. Well, the funny thing about this, in fact, we got 2 games featuring 4 teams this weekend: Bama, Tennessee, Ohio State, Penn State. All 4 of them probably end up leaning on defense to win these games. If the truth is told, all 4 of them probably are relying on ball control. Let's limit possessions. Let's force turnovers. Let's limit mistakes. And let's hopefully grind out a win. I think both of these teams feel the same way. Penn State, the funny thing, the closer you get to their team, the more the fan base is happy with where they are. But they're wondering, if we do get down 14-3 somehow, can we stretch the field? We've got Drew Aller, and he had 5 stars next to his name and got a lot of talent, but what do we have at receiver? They don't have a lot. They don't have game changers at receiver. Probably more likely to do that at tight end than receiver. So I think that question hasn't had to be answered yet. If Ohio State can pop an early score or 2 on them and leverage home field to put them in a hole, that's where it gets really unfamiliar and maybe uncomfortable for them. And so the quickest way to do that is grab an early lead yourself, shave possessions, and also rely on the fact that you got a head coach caliber defensive coordinator in Manny Diaz with a lot of talent at his disposal. And maybe as much as Ohio State is your stiffest test, maybe you end up being Ohio State's stiffest test as well. Notre Dame was a good primer for this game, but I'm really excited to see this. The total is much lower than we were told totals would be in the year 2023. Same way, Bama, Tennessee, same way, upper 40s right now. So, Peepaw told me football would never be this way again, and Peepaw was wrong.
Oh. Hey, for the record, Josh, I think Ohio State's a better team. I think they win the game. With all that said, I go back to what Penn State did against Iowa. After watching Iowa against this week and ultimately a backup quarterback when Mordecai goes out, but Iowa had 4 first downs. Penn State forced 4 turnovers, and they went almost 400 yards on that Iowa defense in a 31-0 rout. To me, say what you want about Iowa, they've got 1 loss. It was to Penn State. That was an impressive win from Penn State.
It was really an impressive win. I mean, Penn State they limited them to, I think you just said 70-something yards, and it was really thorough. That was their whiteout game. It was really thorough. I think you're right to bring that up because I don't really get the sense the rest of the country even remembers that game, much less are talking about that game. That's the price the public sometimes pays when there's a win that's so thorough. Instead of appreciating what it was, which was domination, they say, oh, Iowa must not have been good. Okay, well, you need to be careful with that because then you come into this week and Ohio State coaches know the difference and they know what they just watched on film. And I almost wonder because of that, if we have one of those games, Ohio State and Notre Dame felt like this to me, where the first half is both staffs being petrified of making the game-changing mistake. And as a result, it feels like you're calling plays with both hands tied behind your back and you're just waiting on the other guy to mess up. That's a recipe for a couple of things. First thing, it's a recipe for about a 2-hour, 45-minute game, like triple option style, Service Academy football. And number 2, it means one play is worth about 3 times what it normally is. One turnover is worth about 3 times what it normally is. And we're going to have a game that's played right on the edge of a razor. And yet the reaction afterwards will either be Ryan Day will never get it done again or James Franklin will never get it done again. That's the part I always loathe, even though since I'm in this business, I should love it. I hate it. And I don't know. I tend to lean with you. Certainly Ohio State on paper, a little bit better home field advantage. But I think, you know what I think back to? I think back to a couple of years ago. Remember when Cristobal and Oregon came in there and just randomly beat Ohio State by like 2 scores? And it was kind of the early shaking of the shoulders moment in college football. This would be that in the Big Ten. Because as much as people say Penn State's legit, not many people are going to pick them to win Saturday. And if they did, That's really the first shakeup moment up there.
Yeah, and football is an injury sport. I mean, you have to factor it in more than any other sport, and this Ohio State team is beaten up. I don't know how healthy their running backs will be. I don't know how healthy some of their receivers will be, and if you're putting it in, Kyle McCord's hands with a limited running back room against that Penn State team, that doesn't add up to me, Josh. Home field advantage and all, that doesn't add up to me. I like Penn State this weekend.
Yeah, and if you talk to the Penn State folks, don't misunderstand what I'm about to say, because what I'm about to say will sound like they're overlooking Ohio State. That's not it at all. This is circled in red Sharpie for them. But if you ask them about matchup, they think they match up well with Ohio State. The matchup they're concerned about down the road is the same one that bit them last year, and that's Michigan, because they don't have a way of knowing how much more effective they are against a team fully committed to running the ball for 4 quarters and fully equipped to running the ball for 4 quarters. Like you just said, we don't know if Ohio State can do that right now. And so the secondary pitch may be Kyle McCord and a bunch of really talented receivers. Can we utilize those? And does that play into the hands of Penn State? You sit there and think to yourself, let me utilize these weapons. For all you know, you're probably giving Penn State's defense a chance they otherwise wouldn't have had to change the game with one turnover or one tip ball up in the air.